Good morning from Edinburgh. My name is Michael Turpey. I'm a Scottish Blue Badge tourist guide, and I'm taking a walking tour of Edinburgh's streets. And at the moment I'm in India Street in Edinburgh's new town. I can do this for an hour or so as my period of exercise during lockdown. So today Edinburgh's quite quiet because of that very lockdown situation. Now, India Street, really named after India and the connections with that country. We had in force what was called the East India Company from about the 17th century, and it continued into the 19th century. It's a bit of a trade monopoly in terms of the Silk Road, in terms of the import of luxury items and so on, and cottons and spices, but also opium, which was used by some of the leading literary figures in the 19th century in Scotland. Now, the East India Company became too overly important. It had a political feel to it, it had its own army, and it would put down any kind of revolt from the native peoples. So with the outbreak of what we call the Opium Wars, and in the 1850s it was kind of suppressed by the British government, which took on India to govern, as we know of the British Raj in the 1850s now. So India Street, India buildings, places like that commemorate that kind of connection, and of course Edinburgh being a big trading centre traditionally, not surprising to have an India Street. I'm just stopped out here outside number 13. Number 13 was the home of Samuel Peploe. Samuel Peploe was a painter, an artist. You can see the understated architecture, and he also had a studio here. He was much influenced by the French Impressionists, people like Cézanne and Van Gogh, and he was around towards the end of the 19th century, the beginning of the 20th century, and we know him as what we call a Scottish Colourist, and I can show you an example of his work. Now, that painting is called Still Life with the Tulips and Fruit, and funnily enough, one of our leading writers called Alexander McCall Smith has brought a work by Peploe into one of the plot lines of his Scotland Street novels, so you could look out for that if you're a fan of Alexander McCall Smith. As a Scottish colourist, he was also influenced by the work of Holland, of Frans Hals, and the application of paint quite thickly, sometimes with a palette knife. And he was a member of the Scottish Colourists group, which included other artists who he knew well and would go painting with together. And Cadell, in particular, was one of his good friends. So there was also J.D. Ferguson and Wesley Hunter. And today the Peploe family are still very active around gallery running and art in the city now. Look down here, you see this mounting block. This takes us back to the times of horses and carriages, when people would have to step up carefully to go and visit one of these amazing houses here, mounting blocks. And I'm going to swing us around here to number 14. This was the birthplace of a leading physicist called James Clerk Maxwell, who ranks with the likes of Isaac Newton and Albert Einstein. In fact, Einstein rated him very highly in terms of his own research in the area of physics. Now, he was an early genius, was James Clerk Maxwell. His father was an advocate involved in law, built this house about 1820. Today it's the Clerk Maxwell Museum. At the age of 14, he started writing very advanced theories, gave an indication of his genius. Now, he was looking at developing a theory of electromagnetism. Electromagnetism had already been discovered by the likes of Michael Faraday, but Clerk Maxwell took it a stage further. And today, with modern GPSs, with the radar and microphones and mobile phones and so on, if it hadn't been from him, these wouldn't have been so easily available. He was also interested in light and the science of light, and he was one of the first, well, the first to develop the first colour photograph, Clerk Maxwell. He was the chair he was a professor of natural philosophy at King's College London, and he is also known as a mathematical physicist. So Clerk Maxwell, an unsung hero sometimes, a very amazing Scot. So sun's coming out today. It's coming and going a bit today. It's been a bit sort of cloudy, so I'm kind of wrapped up here. Got my kind of tartan scarf, which I wear a lot of the time when I'm guiding, but I'm also got my kilt on today. So we look at that. So I've got my fingers in front of there. Yeah, I think the book got in the way a bit. I'll let you have another look, see if I can put the book away. So another look at this kilt. Sit. Now, it's in my family tartan, which is McNaughton, which was my mother's family. I wear the kilt most of the time, not just for guiding. I find it's very comfortable and it's very smart in whatever environment you would like to wear it. Now, taking another wee walk up Jamaica Street West, which leads off India Street, and to discover this little pub, which is kind of tucked away and is usually known mainly by the locals. It's called Kay's Bar, and you can see the architecture. It has been an 18th century coach house, but then moved on to be a wine merchant's in the 19th century. And today it is a pub, a public house where you can go and drink beer and whiskey. It's got an amazing selection of both of these, and it has an open fire when it's open, of course. During lockdown just now it's closed. It's a conversation pub, meaning you wouldn't go in there and listen to music as such, or pipe music or live music. It takes the art of conversation very seriously, and it's also known as a rugby pub. Rugby is a very well-known and well-supported sport here in Scotland also, so you could meet people with likewise interests if you popped in there. Behind me, you can see kind of modern architecture, kind of apartments there, right. So I'll walk us back to India Street. India Street is noted in that it is not as steep a street as most of the other streets in Edinburgh's new town, which tend to slant up quite steeply. This one goes down gradually and goes up gradually, so if you want a gentler walk, it's quite a nice quiet street to come up. The reason it is a bit less steep is that it doesn't go all the way down to connect with another street near Stockbridge, which is at the bottom here. It ends in a cul-de-sac, which is just like you come to the end of this and the road just stops and you can't go any further. And there's railings and there's a big drop, and I'll show you a bit of that as we get a bit closer to it. So just admiring the ironwork here. See these lamp standers. Scotland's known for good ironwork, ornamental ironwork. Again, from the 19th century we had the Carron Ironworks, which is still active today but not on the same scale as it was then. So as well as the fine architecture and beautiful local honey-coloured stone that you see here, which gives Edinburgh that extra something, then you have these railings. Okay. But not just the railings, you've got these beautiful balconies. In fact, you can see them today. There we go. Gives people who maybe don't have much of an opportunity for a garden to display their favourite plants. And the balconies were not really to go and sit out on. They were really to show that you were knowledgeable of European architecture. You'd possibly been to Italy, been to France or whatever, and you were bringing back of that knowledge and education to incorporate into your own building. See these fan lights above the doors, different colours too, very picturesque. I'm an artist also, so very inspired. It gives me a lot of ideas for painting, to look at this amazing buildings. Now, let's take you to the end of this block, and the architects were very much involved in symmetry. And you can see it's like a stop, if you like, and on that some elegant sculpture, ionic columns and curves and decorations towards the top there. But if you go near the middle, then it tends to be a bit lower down, and then as you get right to the end, you'll get another like door stop, if you like, to be give you a nice feeling on the eye. Swing us around again, you can see private gardens, green space, trees, nice open areas. They've been getting the grass cut today. And as I walk down, you can see the cobbles. Cobbles, these were to make it easier for horses and carriages so it didn't slip and slide. And many people, including cyclists, would not like these to be here today, but it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, so we have got to be true to our history and we have to retain them, even though you don't like them. Okay. So walking down this gradual slope, now you may see there the end of the road, and that's exactly what it is, the road end. It just stops, and I'm going to take you to here. It's quite a kind of eccentric, unusual characteristic of the area, and swing around to show you the drop down to Stockbridge and Circus Lane, as you can see through there. Swing us around again. And there's a kind of very unusual access which goes through the buildings down, which we know today is a pinch point because we're doing this social distancing, so it's an area where you can pass quite close to people coming up the other way, so I've got to keep a lookout. So we'll just walk down here. You can see above here got overhanging balconies and walkways. Several of them. Walk down into Stockbridge. See behind me. Appeals to the artisan in me. Okay, swing around. See the post box. And here we are at the end of the tour today. So thanks for joining me on this, and hope to catch up with you at another point. So all the best and have a nice day. Bye for now. Thanks. Bye.